there. I've given the block a cheap coat of paint called Brunswick Green. It was only like a $7 spray can, so I'm not planning on it lasting too long, but you don't really see the motor too well. Now I'm going to go through and clean up all the surfaces. I've started doing the head and I'm tapping out all the block holes. I've done all the 7mm ones on the timing cover here. I'm just going to do the 10mm ones for the head bolts, and then I'll flip over and do the sump ones. The cylinder head is back from the machining shop now. They've done quite a nice job of cleaning it all up, and they fixed the spark plug hole which was causing trouble. What they did was they would have put a heli coil in it, so hopefully it will seal up fine, and they've checked out the other threads. They said that it will be fine from now on. I gave the valves, we recut the face on them, and then last night I lapped them in, so they said I'll be good to go now. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to clean it up a little bit more, because there's still a little bit of muck in the corners, and try to see if I can get some more of this corrosion out. And then I'll start to reinstall the valve springs and get the valves back in place. So I've got the engine head sitting on the covers here at the moment. Most of it's all cleaned up and ready to go. I've got the valves back in there. At the moment I'm waiting for new crank bearings and rings. The crank bearings are just a little bit too rough, and the rings, the gap's way too big, so I paid to get some new ones. I've also got a few other little things coming through it, like a new cam chain for it. So for now I'm going to take a little bit of a tangent and work on the boot lid, because it's got a bit of rust in it. A big reason this rusted out is it had this big thick sponge kind of seal in it, and I think it just sucked up the water and had water sitting there for so long it slowly ate away at it. I'm not sure if I'll reuse this, or if I can see if I can find some other sort of boot seal for it. But yeah, it's one thing to sort out. You might also notice that there's like a carpeting material in here, but it's been pretty damaged by the sun. But it's crumbling to pieces, so what I've done is ripped it out. And for now I'll put a bit of black brown vinyl on it to see how it looks like. But what I'll do is I'll get a bit of carpet cut for it and put it in like I've done to my other section. So all this bottom part here is pretty rusted out. I was thinking I could cut a line, cut out the bad stuff, and bring it forward, but if I leave this part, so there's a rust, crack and a rust bit in there, and then down here I need to do it. So I could cut along this line here, in which case I just need to replace this bit in here. But then as I come to the edges, it's getting pretty rusty and in the far corners. So what I might try to do is undo these spot welds in here and lift this part off and then make a whole new piece for this. And I'll see how I go drilling out these spot welds, because I don't want to drill right through this panel. So I'll just have a little play around and see if I can get it coming off nicely, otherwise I might think of another plan. So I got this piece off. It actually turned out to be quite simple. I started drilling out these spot welds in here, but they're actually just 4 on here, which I thought were going to be hard to get out because they were around with hinges and I didn't want to drill through the panel. But the spot welds are actually pretty small, so a little bit of prying, they kind of popped out. I'm still deciding if I'll reuse this or not. I might remake one with shape, but it's pretty rusted through. I could save some of it, but I don't think it's worth it really. What I'm going to do now is just clean up in here. I think my first step is I'll put a bit of strip in on this edge here, and it will kind of stop, keep this in line for now, and I might spot weld a bit of plate in there, put a little bit of body filler over it. I think that should do it. The only thing I'm worried about is if the body filler is because it's quite flexible, is it might crack. but I'll see how I go. So as you can see, I've started stripping out more of the back end. I've taken the bumper off, which was pretty easy. It was just 2 bolts in here. There's a number plate grill, which I've got sitting here. That came off pretty easily. It's just 4 bolts behind it. But when I was doing it, this nut here, it's got captive nuts welded into the back of it. It seized up, and when I was undoing it, this whole bracket twisted around. So what I've done is I've just cut the worst of it out and straightened the rest of it, and just welded a bit of plate in there. It's only 2mm, and I just tapped into the 2mm, but I'll see how it goes. I can always weld a nut in there if I need to. As you can see, I've had the boot off and I've been working on the boot as well. So the next thing was I took the window screen out. That was pretty easy. There's 2 little tabs up in here that bolt up for the boot, and then it kind of hinges out. Gotta watch the unplug for the heated window, and there's a bit of a rubber groove in here that just pops out of. Then I took the hinges off and start off with that. It's easiest to take the trumpet out. These lenses here just kind of flick out into the screw in there, and they'll slide out, and there's a few screws here to undo these covers. There was a stainless steel strip that ran along the back of this roof line. It was a bit tricky to get off. What you do was pry the bottom edge out and then lift it up, but it's quite hard because you couldn't see the clips. But once you got one off, all the rest popped off pretty easily. It's quite good because it's these clips causing rust marks in the roof, so I'll be able to give these a bit of a clean up while it's off. But the main plan for now is I want to wire brush everything that's to be painted black and treat it and paint it black, so it's all ready to go for the rest of the car to go back together. That's something to keep me busy while I'm waiting for the engine parts, so I can get it all back together. As you can see, I've sprayed a little bit of primer on it now. It's not finished, but we were spraying primer with something else, so I thought I'd just spray a bit on while I had it out. I fixed up, you started seeing me fixing up this rust hole in here. I welded a bit of patch into it, came up alright. I didn't want to spend too much time on it. There's a few little holes in there, so I was full of body filler. I've got one bit of rust in here I still need to fix. It's a bit dark, but you can't quite see it. Where the window goes in here, it's a little bit rusted out, and there's a bit of a hole in the backing of the C-pillar in there. It's about that piece in there on the other side, but it's a bit dark, you can't see it. This edge along here where the boot closes was quite rusty, but I didn't want to put weld a patch into it. So what I've done is I kind of ground it out and treated the rust, and then I've put some seam sealer in there. It's a little bit dirty now. I should have done it just after I primed it, but it came out quite smooth and stuff, and it shouldn't rust anymore, so I think that should be a bit of a easy fix. It's not ideal, but it looks quite tidy. When I first did it, it's a little bit messy now because it's got dust and stuff in it, but I'll give it another going over just before I paint it black anyway. As you can see, I've got the other guard in here. This one needed a little bit more work to it. There's a bit of a funny ridge in here and some low points down the back, so I gave it a bit of panel beating and filled it with a bit of body filler, so it needs a bit more sanding back. It's been rust treated, you can see these stripes are here, but it got a little bit wet the other day, so I might need a little bit more. But hopefully I'll get that all ready to paint up when I do the boot. So I started filming the boot and then I stopped and skipped most of it. I just wasn't quite sure what I was going to do, so I was just kind of playing around with different things. So what I did was, last you saw, I think I was wire brushing all this out. So I wire brushed it, treated it with rust and painted it with PRR15, which is like a rust sealing paint. I cut that big rusty strip out of here because it was no good anyway. That bit of steel coming down that was rusted grey had kind of two functions. So I kind of strengthened the bonnet from like twisting this way, and it kind of held that foam seal in here. So what I thought is I could maybe, instead of having something solid on here, is I could have the foam glued to something and then screw the other material onto here. So I've got this bit of plastic which I might use. If this fixes too much, what I'll do is I'll get a bit of aluminium the same size, and I'm also going to put another strip of steel here and here to attach it to. So then I can screw this on here and glue the foam to either this bit of plastic or aluminium if I use it, and that will hold the bonnet seal, and it should also help strengthen it up by the time I get the tabs of steel in here. So hopefully that should get the boot sorted. I've also routed a strip in here. It's a bit thicker than the panel steel, but it gives it quite a bit of strength. As you can see, I put the latch back in. It was just because I was testing the fitment, because when I removed that bit of steel, I wasn't quite sure about the angle of this piece here. So when I had it all held together like that, I just put the latches back on and tried it in the car, and it's working fine. If anything, this plate could kind of come in a little bit. I'm not sure how much it's going to squeeze down the foam. It might be a bit too much, but I'll just see how it goes. Ideally, I'll probably just get another boot along the line, but I just kind of wanted to give it a go fixing it anyway. As you can see, this is where the crack originally was. I've already put one lot of body filler in it and sanded it back, and it came up pretty good, but there's a few little low points in it, so I've just put another layer of body filler on it, and I'm yet to sand it back. But I think this whole bonnet should sand up pretty nicely. I don't know, I probably won't get it sandblasted. It's coming smooth in most places already. So hopefully next time you'll see this, I'll be painting it and fitting it back on the car. So originally, I wasn't really planning on pulling the pistons out. As I kind of got so far into it, I thought it'd be a shame if I got this far and didn't do it. And it turned out to be true, because the ring gap was pretty much, the rings had worn quite a bit and the gap was quite large in them. So I decided I'd order a new set of rings and crank bearings. The crank bearings were kind of alright, but I thought, you know, I'm going this far and I might as well sort things out where I'm at it. So these gaskets arrived in about 2 weeks, because they came by plane from Citroen. Although I ordered the rings and the crank bearings, I also got like a water pump and stuff from another site, but I thought I'd be here in 2 weeks, but it's been about a month already, and it turns out they're coming by boat, so probably going to be a little bit longer still. I've got most of the parts sitting here cleaned up, and I can see there I've got the crank fully painted up. So hopefully once the parts arrive, I should have the engine going pretty soon. Yeah, I've got some boot parts painted up, ready to go back on. So the car's slowly coming to more and more bits and pieces. Although I think the progress is going right, considering when it's spinning after work and weekends on it. Hopefully next video I'll have it painted black, and I might even have the boot and the guard painted colour, depending if we get a few warm days or not. Once this back end's reassembled, pretty much from here back is done. Although I haven't looked at any of the mechanicals on the underside of it. As long as I'm careful, I can paint it all up first anyway. I don't think there's going to be much wrong underneath here. In terms of rust, there's no rust in this back part apart from what I fixed. Although I had a little mistake the other day, is when I first took the back window screen out, I had it sitting on the back seat. But I wanted to have a look at the fuel tank the other day, so I pulled it out and had it sitting behind me. And then 2 nights ago I came out to grab my camera because the memory stick was full. And I'd forgotten I'd placed the back window screen down here, and I came and got it, and some bits fell on it, and it shattered into 1,000 pieces. So that was a bit of a bugger, but I think I've sourced a new one, or a second-hand one, because I'm going to pick up next weekend. It's not ideal, but it's just one of those things that happens. But yeah, thanks for watching.